So I've been making videos now for quite a long time, longer than I can even think of actually. But whenever I post one that is about resistance training, I get a lot of comments asking about what weight should I use for this training. My usual answer is one that challenges you. However, it's not quite as simple as that because it actually depends on what your goals are as a wheelchair user. Do you want to build strength and size? Do you want to build muscular endurance? There's lots of different approaches that we can do by changing the weight and reps that we're doing. And that's exactly what we're going to be diving into today's video, to expanding on that theory and telling you a little bit more about whether you should be using lightweights or whether you should be using heavyweight. So let's jump into, first of all, some of the basics. A lightweight is a weight that's light relative to your ability levels that you can do for a larger amount of reps. And a heavyweight is a weight that's heavy relative to your ability that you would do for a lower amount of reps. So to give you an example, if I'm doing a bicep curl and say I've got 5 kilograms and I could do 15 reps, but I can't do that 16th rep, that would be considered a lightweight but a higher amount of reps. And generally when we talk about higher reps, we're talking about anywhere from sort of 10 to 20 reps. But if we're talking about a heavyweight, let's say I'm doing the bicep curl but I'm doing it with 10 kilograms and I get to maybe 8 repetitions and then I can't do number 9, that would be considered a heavyweight for me with lower repetitions. And generally when we're talking about that, we're going anywhere between 2 and 10 reps. Now when it comes to these two approaches, neither one is inherently good or bad. It all depends on what your training goals are. So let's dive into each one and when you would use them. So when we talk about lightweight, we're talking more about muscular endurance training. And yes, you still build size and you still build strength when you're doing this type of training, but you're pushed more into building endurance with your muscles. See, when we give our body a stimulus, it adapts to that stimulus and our body changes to make us better at it. So if you do a lighter weight but a lot of reps, our body gets better at doing that weight for a lot of reps. So our muscles have more endurance. And this is particularly great for us wheelchair users. We're pushing our wheelchairs every day. If you need to go up big hills for a longer period of time, muscular endurance does play a huge part in our daily activities. Not only that, but it's a great way to start off on your fitness journey because we're not putting as much strain on muscles and joints that aren't used to doing those exercises yet. If you go straight away with heavy weights with no background in fitness, then you may find that you struggle and are more likely to get injured. And with using a lighter weight means that we can focus more on our form without putting too much pressure on our body. The better you get at form through doing lighter weights, the more you can transition that when you do eventually use heavier weights. So not only is it great for our endurance, but it's great for beginners and those learning new exercises. Now, when we move into using heavier weights, we're sliding that scale more into using strength. And again, yes, it does build size and it builds muscular endurance when we focus more on strength as well, but it focuses more on the strength aspect of things. Now, because each rep is going to be harder than if we use light weights, we can't do as many reps. But each rep is a much bigger challenge, which means our body adapts to that. Like I said with the endurance, our body adapts to getting better at using a lightweight for a lot of times. When we're using a heavier weight, our body adapts so we get better at using a heavier weight for a shorter amount of time. And that's key to any type of training. Our body adapts to the stimulus that we give it. So when we train like this, it builds both our strength and our power. And this is particularly useful when we're doing any sort of harder activities in our daily lifestyle, whether it's a sport-based activity, an explosive push maybe, or whatever it may be that we need to do that requires a lot of strength. And when we're talking about lower repetitions, we're talking more about between 2 and 10 repetitions. Now when I say 2 repetitions, you probably aren't going to be doing sessions that involve that little. That is more for powerlifters, for example. What most of you'll find is somewhere between the 6 and 10 repetition range. But what if we forget about lightweights or heavyweights? What if we go somewhere in between the two? As you may have noticed, there's a crossover point which is about 10 repetitions where you're going on the higher end of strength training and the lower end of endurance training. Well, this is a sweet spot when it comes to muscular size. We're getting some of the benefits of the strength training and some of the benefits of the endurance training. Now, if you do want to build pure strength, you want to go more into the lower reps with the heavier weights. And if you want to build muscular endurance, you do want to push more into the lighter weights with the higher repetitions. But for most people, you're going to be somewhere in between the two. I always recommend somewhere between 8 and 12 repetitions is going to be a good place for 95% of the people out there. But it also doesn't mean that you have to just stick to one approach or the other. You can mix and match it and change it up to either make things interesting for yourself. In fact, mixing it up can help the other one. Let's take, for example, if you were doing muscular endurance most of the time. But if you spent maybe 1 or 2 months working on muscular strength, your ability to lift heavier goes up. You can transfer that over, and now your weight that you're using is less light. So now your muscular endurance training is actually more intense, and you progress forwards a little bit. So there you can see that you can play around with things and make it work for you. Just remember, when it comes to using this, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. It's all about what you want to get from your training programs. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns about anything talked about in this video, let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll be sure to help you to find the solution that works for you. If you like the video, be sure to hit the like button. It really does help out the channel to reach more people. And subscribe if you're new here or you haven't already. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Are you ready to start your fitness journey? Then sign up now at adapttoperform.co.uk and get access to hundreds of workouts specifically for us wheelchair users.